So, a business mentor of mine used to always say, new level, new devil. So, whether you are a rising leader or a seasoned executive, there is always going to be a bigger room, a higher stakes communication, or something that will rock you off your confidence, even if you consider yourself world class and extremely confident. And if you were thinking, well, I'm not really that confident, I'm working on it, then this will be amazing for you too. So, this is a couple of strategies how not to choke when the communications and conversations are high stakes and really matter. So, the first thing is do not get in a battle with your emotions because they will always win. So, in other words, acknowledge and validate your emotion. So, rather than saying, I am nervous, I am worried, I am concerned, I am scared, the I ams are saved for the positive. In other words, I am someone who does their best. I am someone who has gotten to this point or who has climbed these mountains or who is knowledgeable in this. Save the I ams for the positive. Acknowledge and validate the negative. So, in other words, I notice. So, I am to I notice. I notice I feel scared going to the meeting with the CEO. I notice I'm worried about presenting to the board. So, I notice. I always say be the observer, not the judge. In other words, if you think of your emotions as a rushing stream, you don't want to jump in there into the middle of the stream. You want to stand on the bank and see the stream go by. So, you want to acknowledge them, validate them. Don't say, oh, just forget it. That's silly. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine, because you won't believe it. So acknowledge it, but I notice. Okay? Be the observer, not the judge. And then also then focus on the controllables. So number one thing that drives negative emotion in us, especially anxiety or worry, is things that we don't have control over, such as how is it going to be received, what we're going to say in this high stakes conversation? What are other people going to think? How is it going to land? All of those things. We have no idea. The only things that we really have control over are what we're going to do and what's going to come out of our mouth. And if we can take control of the controllables, then it will help us to be more grounded. So the controllables, two things about this. One is a controllable as it relates to the other person. If you're having a conversation with 1 to 2 people, then it's important to understand their negotiation style. So in other words, are they very direct and curt? Or are they analytical? Are they people driven, relationship driven, or what have you? So you want to be mindful of what type of negotiation style they have and then focus your communication that way. We'll go really more deeper into that in another video, but for now, just think about if you're, for example, very relational, but you're talking to an operations person who is very curt, bullet points, very to the point, then you want to make sure that you control your communications and that you speak in that person's style. So in other words, predominantly in their style, which is very curt, short, bullet points, no extra words, for example. But then also you want to focus too on your controllables, which is what is most important that you have control over, that will make you proud of an outcome of the conversation, or that will give you the best outcome. So for example, it could be focus on the facts. It could mean slow down my speaking. It could be eye contact. One of those things. So in other words, when it comes to controllables, think about the other person, their communication style. How can you perhaps make a little dial shift to match that a little bit? And then also your controllables. What is one thing that you have control over on that you will be world class at that? Now, does any of this guarantee that you're going to gain buy-in, get a yes, get the promotion, get the salary package, or get on the project or what have you, or just get a win? Absolutely not. But what it will do, it will give you your absolute best shot, or it will move you forward to the next step of influence where you'll have a chance to have another stab at it. So I am cheering you on always. Here's to you, not just having a seat at the table, but having a bigger voice at the table. If I can help you or your organization in any way, please do let me know. I look forward to seeing you next time.